Hey, so it's Rio and it is week one Learn Together. So I know this is the first week and you've already had a lecture you needed to do, but that was really more just introducing you and getting your system set up, which is really important stuff. So what I want to do today is do our first Learn Together. And this is where I either talk about topics outside of the Udemy course or take, and this is more likely what happens, take what is in the Udemy course and expand on it and give you some more skills for it. But since we don't have a lot of code to talk about yet, what I thought I'd do in this first Learn Together is actually something that I've actually given quite a bit of thought to. And there's going to be two parts of this assignment. One will be, for you to take a print screen, and that's the second part to show us, your setup and talk about anything that you may have encountered there. So, but the first one, and I don't want to say more importantly, because, the second one actually can kind of dip into the first one in this sense, is that for a class, and for any class, this is true, but specifically, let's talk about our class. There can be various obstacles that you can run into that may prevent you from getting the work done successfully, right? I mean, when you think about anything in life, there could be a series of things that get in your way. Could be your own schedule, could be people in your life, could be your own family needing you, could be your own system, right? Your own computer setup, your own skill base coming in. So whatever those obstacles are, right? I want to try to help you remove those. And obviously the ones that are more personal are a little more challenging for me, but if you just want to, troubleshoot, have somebody to talk to, I'm open to that as well. The ones that prevent you from actually doing the work that are more technical in nature are, of course, the ones that I'm more suited to. But here's the other thing about this, and I say this because of the following, is that when you learn something new, and specifically I have experienced this and I've talked to a lot of people who, when you're learning to code, it can really be fraught with self-doubt. So it's like, well, I should know this, I should get this to work. And if you don't, there can be a tendency that if things don't work, it gets frustrating, you give up. You're like, I can't do this. So the thing that you need to do, and that's why my first, heading here, remove obstacles. Like, are removing obstacles. What are those obstacles and how can we help you remove them if possible, or is it something you need to do? Because the more you can successfully navigate whatever obstacles come your way related to this course and really to life, right? You could extend everything I'm talking about to life. Then the more successful we are all going to be. Because this is true. This holds true for me. Like the thing I like to say too is that, don't assume that it's you, because it may be something that I'm asking you to do. As an example, one of the students before the semester started couldn't get some of the code to run. And I'm actually going to show you in the second part, as I show you how to do the, share your print screen, what he ran into, because I think it's really good to talk about these things. And that's why reaching out, and that's the thing that I find, and I'm really trying to kind of hammer this idea home to you, is when you reach out for help, right? I mean, this is an online class. You are going to see me either virtually or in person 3 times a semester for your code reviews. And I'll talk about those in a little while later. I may have talked about them a little bit in the attendance post, but I want to say to you, right, is it's really important to reach out to me, or I've given you a class chat to reach out to your classmates. But whatever those obstacles are, right, please reach out, get help so that we can help you remove them and become successful, because that's how life is. Get used to it. The more you do it, the more you figure it out, the better you become, the better we become, because I have to do it as well. Okay, so what I want you to do in this case is, there's a reply, right? So I'm just going to scroll down. There's a reply. One thing I think it's really cool to do is actually do a heading All right, so I put my heading was remove obstacles. I want you to give this a heading related to kind of a summary of what you're going to talk about. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say heading 2, right? So your first one will be, again, make up some kind of heading related to your reply to this. You could reply to this saying how you've navigated, what strategies you have, right, for getting the most out of a class or life or whatever, right? So this is pretty open, 150 words to this. Okay, so that's the first part. And then the second part, right, is going to be a print screen. And you can, if you want, just put print screen, screenshot. People share, people have different names for this. But I'm going to walk you through technically how to do this, right? And then I don't have this here, but I will put it in here. Is you also need to do 2 replies, minimum 75 words. But the more posts you read from your fellow students, at least glance at them, the better your experience. Now, not you may learn something from somebody, and there's so many opportunities to learn in this class. All right, so now let me talk about this, right? So, and now let me just move to so this is the setup. And I have the directory open, and right now and there's 2 ways you could open, because now you have 2 directories on your local computer. You have your private and your public. And in this case, I'm going to have you run code that's in your private, but you're going to post the print screen to your public. Okay. So I have been showing, and you'll notice in my videos I do it this way, but you don't have to. And let me show you why doing it this way just makes you do another step that Andrew doesn't talk about, and just to understand. If I come, now this is the first time I've opened VS Code in a little while, and I opened up my hello world, but I had to navigate into my private directory, and you should have a JS Bootcamp directory. Now these are files you're going to create later, but the first one was just hello world.js. Okay, so I have that open in my editor, but when I go into my terminal, right, so when I go to terminal and I do new terminal, in this case, and this is a command, right, ls, list files, what I see here is the 2 repos. So what I want to do is I want to change into the repo that I want, right? So if I'm opening the file, I want to change into my private one. But if I'm going to post the print screen I'm taking, I'd want to open this one, right? So this is where if you just open these folders individually, you'll just have to move back and forth by opening the folder here. But if you don't, you'll need to navigate on the command line. Okay, sorry. So let's say I'm going to go into public and then ls here. And now what I want you to do here is I want you to make a new directory, right? So I should have actually shown you how to run the code, but this idea is the same. Actually, let's just do that. Let me actually navigate back. So now that I did cd ... it took me back to where I started. It takes you back 1 directory. So from here, I'm actually going to do, and if I start typing and I hit tab, it'll look at my directories and figure out a match that it can find. So now from here, let me just first do it clear and do it ls, and now I'm going to JS Bootcamp, right? Clear again, just so it clears the screen. And so now I'm in the directory, right? So from here, I see that hello world file. I have it open, but in order to run it, node hello world. Now, if I hit tab there as I start, because actually in this case, I could have just typed H and hit tab and it would have found it. So then that's my output. And so I'm going to take a print screen. Now, taking print screens is different for every operating system. And hopefully you know how to do this. But if you need some, I'll actually see if I can find some links, because there's great examples for how to do it on Windows, how to do it on Mac. Most students have come in with this experience. But again, it's one of those, maybe this is an obstacle, right? So just figure out how to jump over it. But all you're doing here is showing me, how to take a print screen. But now you're showing me in this next part, because what we're going to do is actually place that file into our repos on a new directory I'm going to show you how to create. Okay. So again, I'm running Linux, right? So you may be running Windows, Mac, you may be running Linux. So for me, when I take a print screen, it actually comes into this directory. So what I'm going to do is I'm first just going to click into it and rename it. And actually, notice how I already did this just a minute ago. So I'll actually use this one. Okay. So now this is just where I'm going to navigate my files. So I'm actually going to come down because this is going to go into my private here directory, my private repo here. And it's the same thing that's over here. So I could either navigate this folder structure by creating, because I'm going to create a new folder here, or I can do it over here. Now, I like actually doing it in VS Code, so I'm actually going to do that. So over in VS Code, by clicking on the public, there's actually a make file, and then here there's new folder. So new file, new folder. So now that I'm clicked into here, I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it print screens, because there's going to be several times you're going to want to do this in this class. So now that I've created it, I'm going to go back to my directory listing right here. And what will happen now, and I think I do have a refresh somewhere here, right? So in here, let's see. Oh, look, it popped in right there. Okay, so now what I can do is I can just grab this file and I can drop it into, let's see if it actually got copied. It did. Now this is where you navigate your own operating system based on, whatever you're used to, right? So I'm going to clear this, and now I'm going to do that. And actually, I'm going to go back to, right? So that's actually going back 2 directories deep. And now I'm going to navigate into my public. Cool. Right. So here I see my print screens. Cool. And then I see that one print screen that I took. So now I get to complete my GitHub workflow, right? So because it's locally in one, what you want is you want it out on the web. So git add star. Now I could just specify there git add and then the actual file name. And now I'm going to do a commit. I'm going to say week 1. And I call learn together, I abbreviate LT, print screen. Okay, and all you're doing here is showing me that the code ran, and really learning getting more experience with GitHub. I know, not the greatest Git, too many's in there. So I'm going to clear this again. So now that I've added it to my repo, I've committed into my local repo. Now I'm going to do a git push, and this is where you may have to, right? Actually, that's my username. Log in. Okay, cool. Boom, boom, boom. So now what it's doing is it's pushing that out to, and now I'm going to move to a directory. I'm sorry, into a browser. And I'm going to move into our repo. So now I'm actually, so again, we're learning more. So there could be a variety of obstacles that could have hit you right there, right? So and for me, if I go into my public, I should see now, because I've pushed it there, that new directory called print screens. And now I see, and I can click on that. And this is a PNG, which is fine. Generally, the file type here is JPEG, PNG. You typically don't do a TIFF. Those are too big. So in this case, I'm just going to inside here, right click and say copy image address. Now this is specific to Chrome, and generally I recommend you use Chrome. Okay, so just for commonality for us. So now down in here, now down in my reply, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, you have several options, and this is what we call the WYSIWYG interface. What you see is what you get. Now I could actually write the code for this, not a bad thing, but to make this easy, I'm just going to say embed image. And in the embed image, I get a URL. So I just paste in that image address that I got. And you don't have to populate this. Now notice what happens is it automatically grabs the resolution based on, because the resolution of the file is actually based on the resolution of your screen. So you don't have to make these smaller, but I'm going to show you what happens in Canvas, because Canvas is smart enough to resize it to make it look okay. All right, cool. So then, boom, there's your print screen. Setting not in Canvas, but embedded from GitHub into Canvas, right? So you should have some writing here. Let me just come back to you real quick, right? So this is what I mean, right? So that process you just went through, there could be a variety of things that can throw you off. And, there's definitely something to be said for figuring it out. There's good skill, troubleshooting skill, but there's also a point of diminished returns. And the point of diminished returns is if you spend, and this is a hard number to give you, but I'm just going to give you kind of a guess. If you spend on any particular one of those steps more than 20 minutes, you should reach out for help. Because at that point, it's, to me, in my opinion, this is my opinion, diminished returns. It's like, because maybe it's 10 o'clock at night. I'm not going to be available, but your classmates on class chat might be, right? Remember, Google is always your friend as well. There's a lot of people that have used GitHub. There's a lot of people that have done the stuff that we're doing in this class. So learning, and maybe not the embedding so much, because that would mean they would. So, but in general, there's help. You just and here's the other thing, and I'll leave you with this concept, is this is why it is great to work ahead of the due date. Because if you're working at the due date, I'm not going to be much help to you, quite frankly. I have things due at midnight because I know students like to work at night. I don't. I'm pretty much a 7, 8 o'clock kind of offline gal. So that's my schedule. So you just have to think about that, and working ahead just is beneficial. Okay, we got through our first learn together. Rock on. Glad you're here. See you later.